You guys know that old TLC show, I Didn't Know I Was Pregnant? I could have been on that show. Mind my daughter in the background. She is watching Finding Dory again and playing with her toys, so you might hear one of her toys go off or various noises like that throughout the story time. Alright, so a little bit of context before I begin this story. At this point in my life, I was eating a lot better. I have a history of bad eating habits, so I was trying to make myself, you know, definitely eat more, eat healthier. So I was eating better, and I had just gotten my new dream job in the back of a vet clinic, so a new job. Now this story begins, one day I was actually in the shower. It's a weird place to begin, but that's where it begins. I remember kind of looking down at my stomach and thinking, okay, like I've definitely gained some weight. Now again, I just thought that's because I was eating better. And then I remember like pressing on my stomach and being like, that feels quite hard, you know, like it's not like a squishy, you know, like a stomach should be. It's quite hard. So that was a little bit like, nah. So I remember getting out of the shower and sending my sister a Snapchat and being like, okay, does this look weird or does this look normal? And she was like, oh, haha, like you must have just had something to eat. And I was like, I haven't eaten anything yet today, so. She was like, you should go take a test. And me being super in denial, I was like, no, it's fine. Like I'm not, there's no way I'm pregnant. Come a couple weeks later, I was over at my sister's house and we were just hanging out. And behind my back, the little sneaky sneak sent her husband out to get a pregnancy test. And then he came back and gave it to my sister, and my sister pulled me into her bathroom in her room and was like, you're peeing on this, like just do it so you can get clarity. I was like, yeah, okay, it'll be peace in mind because it's gonna come out negative, but at least it's good to know, because I was getting paranoid. So I'm like sitting there, you know, do my business, pee on the stick. I'm sitting there reading the back of the box, and I'm like, okay, so like how does this go? So one line, I'm in the clear, and 2 lines is bad. And she was like, well, you know, it depends on how you look at it. And I just see her look down at the test, and she immediately does this. She just cupped her whole mouth, and she was like, and her face got bright red. Judging by her reaction, I haven't even looked at the stick yet. There's no way. Like you're joking with me right now. Like you're messing with me. She was like, no, like I'm not. So I looked down, I pulled up the test with the back of the box and the test, and I was like, I'm like, oh my god, like there's no way. This must be like a false test, or like, you know, a false positive. And my sister, being an LPN, she was like, you can get false negatives, but it's pretty rare to get false positives. So I start freaking out. I know I wanted kids, and I've always wanted kids, but I wasn't ready. I was like, it's not the right time, like we can't do this now. My sister was like, you know, there's never a right time. It's out of your control. Taking that all in, I was like, okay, well, I have to go home and tell Chris. And conveniently this day, me and Chris were in a bit of a riff. We were having a bit of an argument. So I came home and he wasn't home. I was like, what is going on? And then I texted him and I was like, where are you? He was like, oh, like I'm over at my boss's house watching the fights. When are you gonna be home? And he said, oh, I'm not gonna be home for a few hours. Freaking out, like by myself, trying not to have a panic attack. So I'm like, okay, what can I do to like calm myself down? I think I watched 2 of my favorite like funny movies just to like try to take my mind off of it. And then he comes home, and immediately, as soon as he walks through the door, I like stand up. And I had hid the pregnancy test over in that drawer. So I like walk over to the door and I'm like, I need you to sit down because like we need to talk. Very poor choice of words, because he looked at me, he was like, are you breaking up with me? And I was like, no, but you need to sit down for this. I walked over to the drawer and took out the pregnancy test, the positive pregnancy test, and then I walked over to the table and I just put it in front of him. He looked at it and he was like, what's that? And then he proceeded to look at it for a second, and then he was like, are you serious? And I was like, yeah, I'm pregnant. And then of course, like the waterworks start happening again because I'm full of emotions. He just takes a second to process, and he's like, okay. And he comes over from around the table and he hugs me. He's asking, why am I crying? Like, why am I so upset? Like, well, you know, cause like, I don't know, like, can we do this now? Like, what are we going to do? And he's like, well, like, we're gonna be parents. And I was like, okay, well, let me make a doctor's appointment so that I can see how far along I am. Made a doctor's appointment, and he had booked me for an ultrasound. So there was a couple weeks, and then I had that doctor's appointment, and my family doctor, he was like, oh, like, I don't really deal with babies. He was trying to find out like when my last cycle was. Because of the birth control I was on, I actually didn't get my period. It was like cramping and mild spotting maybe, so I haven't got my period in like a year. And he was like, well, I need like a specific date, so I literally just took something out of the blue, and I was like, okay, like April. And by this point, I think it was June when we found out. Yeah, it was the month of June when I found out I was pregnant, and the date that I found out I was pregnant was June 8th, 2019. So you're probably about only 8 weeks along. And I was like, okay, cool. He said, but I'll book you for an ultrasound just to make sure. So he booked me for an ultrasound. I went in for my ultrasound a week later, and Chris thankfully got to take the time off of work to come with me, so I didn't have to go alone. The girl was like, okay, like, how far along do you think you are? And I was like, oh, my doctor kind of narrowed it down to like 8 weeks, but I really don't know. She's like looking, okay, like you're a lot farther along than you think you are. So I'm like, okay, like what, like 12, maybe 14 weeks? Looked at me right in the face, me lying down on the table while she's pressing down on my abdomen. She's like, you're 21 weeks. It didn't take me very long to do the math in my head to find out that I was 5.5 months pregnant, and I had no idea. You guys know that old TLC show, I Didn't Know I Was Pregnant? I could have been on that show. Chris is like, oh yeah, like 21 weeks, like whatever. So she's like, normally at this point we would be doing your anatomy scans, so can you stay here for like an extra hour so we can get all that stuff? And I was like, yeah, that's not a problem. Just letting her get the images and stuff like that. She prints off some to send home with us. And then me and Chris are walking out of the hospital, his arm around me, and he's just like, okay, like, so what do you want to do? And I just looked at him and I said, we're gonna be parents. And then emotional, I started to cry, and then he hugged me. Once we got to the truck, he was like, oh, I need a second. And then he kind of dry heaved a couple times, and then he was like, oh, okay. Chris was the guy that he never said that he wanted kids, but never said like, I never want kids. He just didn't really think about it. Like, we've talked about it, and I have definitely told him I want kids, but not during this like right now type of thing. We've been together for like 5.5 years, or 5 years at this point. So we got home, and then we were like, well, we can tell, you know, the rest of our family now because we're going to be having a baby. I called my best friend Tiana right away because she has 2 kids at this point, and I was like, oh my god, she's going to freak. So I called her and I was like, hey, I need to tell you something. And she said, are you pregnant? And I said yes. So we both start crying. FaceTimed his mom and just showed her the images. Like, he had them down on the table, and then he just like flipped the FaceTime around so that she could see. And on Chris's side of the family, it's their first grandchild. So we were making Chris's mom a grandma and Chris's grandma a great grandma, and his sister an auntie for the first time. She was like, you're joking, like, you're kidding. And she just starts like instantly bawling. Here's the kicker. Not only are we pregnant, but we're already 5.5 months along. My parents were actually gone away for the weekend that we kind of had the test and then told everybody. So we had to wait a whole week and the following weekend before we told my parents, and my mom totally already knew. I can't surprise her for the life of me. My sister was there and had Elaine on FaceTime trying to be sneaky because Elaine wanted to see my parents' reactions. And my mom actually looked at my sister and was like, what are you doing on the phone? And then saw that Elaine was on FaceTime, and that was when it clicked. She was like, yeah. My mom was like, Doug, that's my dad's name. She was like, Doug, like, stop talking. They have something they want to say. Chris just pulled the ultrasound images out of his pocket and then laid them down on the table, and I said, yeah, we're pregnant. Mom was like, oh my god, I knew it. My dad's like, what? no, like I'm the youngest child, so he was like, oh my God, but he was still super happy. And then I was like, but there's another kicker. Kind of looked at me and they're like, we only see one baby, like you're not having twins. And I was like, no, it's not twins, but I'm already 21 weeks along. They were like, what? Every time I told somebody this, they thought I was lying. But I was like, no, like I really had no idea. Did you not feel the baby moving around? I thought I was just having the odd cramp or like gas bubble, so it really didn't feel like much. Before I got the job at the vet clinic, I was doing 3 jobs, so I was regularly like super stressed out and kind of an emotional roller coaster, if you will. I didn't think anything new of it, which kind of sounds bad, but you get what I mean. So we drove to my eldest sister's house and told her. She was super emotional. Everybody took it super well. So that I think the following weekend after that, we went to my sister's house and I made a sign and we took our pregnancy announcement photos and then we posted those on Facebook. We need to get ready. So because I'm the youngest in my family and it was the first grandchild on Chris's side of the family, we were very blessed and we got very spoilt with Skylar, so we didn't have to spend very much of our own money to get ready and to get everything that we needed. I got a lot of what I needed at my baby shower that I was, again, very, very blessed to have at my mom and dad's house. It was a beautiful baby shower and we got lots of beautiful presents. The night that I came home from the ultrasound was the first time that I actually felt her kick. And we decided that we did not want to know what gender she was. We wanted it to be a surprise. So we were getting everything that we needed, but I was growing and growing and growing. I think we had about 3 maternity shoots, one that my sister did, one a girl named Taylor did, she's a wonderful photographer, and then another that Van's Portraits did, which are the portraits that I showed you in one of the previous vlogs that we just hung up on our wall. I wasn't videotaping too much. I videotaped a little bit of my belly growing and Skylar moving around in there, which was super cool, so I'll insert those clips throughout this video. It was a whirlwind. It's a lot to wrap your head around in a very, very short period of time. Your body is changing and doing all these things, and I was not prepared for it mentally, physically. Like it was a ride for sure, and it still is to this day. The pregnancy was all very good. I got really, really lucky and didn't get sick. I didn't have any complications. I tested negative for the gestational diabetes. I had a little bit low of iron towards the end, but not enough where they were concerned and I had to be on supplements or anything. Yeah, I was just very thankful that I had the loving support of both mine and Chris's family, and everything went great. I don't have anything bad to say about my pregnancy other than it's a lot to wrap your head around because your body is changing and your body is growing and you're always tired, and then you're restricted after a while to doing a lot of certain things and you're very limited, and it feels very defeating. If there's one thing that I learned when I was pregnant is you have to accept what's happening to you, because at this point you don't have a choice. It's going to happen whether you want it to happen or not. Whatever is going to happen during your pregnancy and labor and birth is going to happen, whether you're ready for it or it's in your plan or not. Couldn't think about actually giving birth because if I started to think about it, I started to have a panic attack, and there was no point in doing that to myself and to the baby. So I said, when the time comes, I will deal with it. I'm gonna go get the baby journal so that I can read over some of the things for you, because it was all about when I was pregnant. I don't know how well you guys can see those, but our little sign says, our family is growing 2 feet and 1 heartbeat, November 2019. The first doctor that I met going to Highland Family Practice was Dr. Davidouk, and she was great. She wasn't the one that I ended up sticking with towards the end and the one that was on call during my labor and delivery. But I will get into those details in the next Storytime video, which will be my labor and delivery Storytime. June 28th was my second ultrasound where she actually waved. I remember looking at the sonogram or the thing and she actually waved at me and Chris, and it was a really cute moment because you hear about other babies doing that, but when it actually happens to you, it's so different. June 22nd was the first time I heard her heartbeat. See, I'm so glad that we have this and I did this because this is so cool to look back on, and when she gets bigger, I'm so happy that she'll have this to look back on and all these details. Looking back on these photos, it's crazy because we're two totally different people now because of our daughter. The first time Chris felt her move was June 23rd at 8:40 p.m. She was super active in my stomach, especially at nighttime when I went to bed. She was like rolling around, and you know, it actually sucked when I was really big, like towards the last month that I was pregnant, because it hurt when she was so active. So this is the first ultrasound picture. Like, this is how big she was in the first ultrasound. Normally, they're very much smaller, like a little peanut when you first go to your first ultrasound, but in my case, that was not the case. Throughout the whole time, I was pretty good. Like, her heart rate was always good. The measuring was always good. I had to go for a non-stress test towards the end because they were worried that she was not growing like she should be, and then while I was in early labor and they measured her again in an ultrasound, they thought that her legs looked abnormally long, but when she came out, they were like, we have no concerns. So it was just a couple of things that got mentioned at my last few appointments with her. Things that I craved when I was super pregnant with her was pickles, cucumbers, lots of chocolate, and then the jumbo freezies. I also really liked ice cream, slushies, burgers, poutine, milk. I was obsessed with milk. I know that some moms out there, when they're pregnant, they want to only eat healthy foods because it's healthy for the baby. But at this point where I was, like, mentally and physically, I was like, if I crave it, I want it, and I need it. I don't care what it is. And it was a lot of junk food. So I just caved and treated my damn self because I was going through a lot. I was convinced that I was having a boy. No doubt in my mind, I'm having a boy. I don't know why I felt that, but I did. Before I found out I was pregnant, the Jonas Brothers had just made their comeback and they were having their concert in Vancouver. So we got tickets right away. And then I found out I was pregnant and she was like, oh my God, like, what about the concert? And I was like, well, it's in October, so I'll only be like 8.5 months pregnant. So we're going. Everyone thought I was crazy. And everyone tried to convince me not to go. But I was persistent, I was stubborn, I was like, I'm going. I made it there and back in one piece and didn't have any complications. But yes, I went to a Jonas Brothers concert when I was 8.5 months pregnant with her. But yeah, I think that is pretty much it for my finding out I was pregnant story and my pregnancy journey. If I missed something or you have questions, make sure to comment your questions down below and I will answer them for you. Since we're all finished up with the story time, we can get back on with the vlog. So this video was originally supposed to be part of a vlog, so I actually didn't film a proper outro for it. After I edited the story time and the vlog, I realized both of them together would be way too long of a video, so I decided to split them up. You'll get this story time first, obviously, and then on Sunday you guys will see the vlog that was supposed to be with this story time. So if you enjoyed, make sure to give it a like, subscribe so you can watch our little family grow. Don't forget to turn on your bell notifications so you get notified every time we upload a brand new video. Follow us on all our socials. The links are in the description box down below. But until then, I will see you in the next video. Bye!